I'm very grateful and thankful for where I am without having to play to the galleries, without even winning a single award from the film industry. But I'm still here. Yeah, sure, I want to make money, don't get me wrong, but it's not the driving factor. Creativity was the driving factor. Happiness is in being free. Fame and money usually takes away that very thing, which is freedom. I've been taken advantage of, manipulated, gaslit by directors I've worked with, people I've worked with. Have I made mistakes? Sure. Not just in trusting people I should not have trusted, but also in being honest.
Hi and welcome to midday.com. Joining us for a very special episode is Abhay Deol, who's back with Jungle Cry, a very special film
Yes.
full of grit and determination.
Yes.
And Abhay, a constant, complaint from your fans is we want to see more of you.
Yeah.
And is that changing with Jungle Cry?
Well, if you look at my career's graph so far in the 17 years that I've been around, I've averaged like 2 films a year. So it's not like I'm not around, but in an environment where you see a celebrity will have X number of endorsements and will have stories about them in the press all the time. They're constantly visible, whether for a movie or for a brand or for an event. And so it feels like they've never gone. They're around, they're happening, they're hot. And that's really what creating a star is all about. I, on the other hand, I'm like, I do my film, I promote my film, and then I'm not selling you a product. I'm not putting stories out there in the press. I'm trying to be invisible for the time I'm in between films. It's just an old school way of thinking where you kind of maintain a distance and a mystery about yourself. That's gone out the door now. It's not that I take breaks, it's that I'm not visible. Doesn't mean I'm gone. And also the kind of films I do aren't the bigger budgeted with a lot of marketing behind them. So it's not just that I don't do personal PR, but my films too have a limited PR behind them. So sometimes you don't even know they're playing.
Yeah.
You might want to watch a movie of mine and I have a film of mine coming out, but you might never know because you never happen to catch a glimpse of it in the marketing. So that happens a lot of the times.
No, but that's lovely because 17 years and people are, still looking forward to everything that you come
Yeah.
with. So that's not something everybody
Yeah.
gets.
So I'm very grateful and thankful for where I am and that I can be here today and still be an employed working actor without having to play to the galleries, without having to invest in marketing and publicity, without even winning a single award from the film industry. But I'm still here. You know what I mean? And fine, fair enough.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, I couldn't ask for more.
And were you that kid always into sports, or what was your childhood like?
I tried to be in sports, I was just not very good.
Okay, but was that a passion, like maybe watching sports, or was that something that kind of inspired you?
I played a bit of football, I swam, but it was just a little bit here on the other side. It wasn't so passion of mine, no.
And of course, about Jungle Cry. So, playing a rugby coach, what was the prep like? I'm sure it's pretty different from your other films. So,
Prep in general this is a true story, which actually I found most interesting because it shines a light on the fact that, these kids play rugby, but rugby isn't a popular sport for the media to shine a light on too much, or at all for that matter. It's an institute that is built specifically for kids from tribal backgrounds, and these kids aren't someone who would get media time, share, or even stories written about them in the film industry, what is traditionally Bollywood, so to speak. So to see that they had come up the hard way and achieved so much, won the World Cup, and still not got any attention because we just so happened to have won the Cricket World Cup in that same year. I found that really intriguing, insightful. And as far as prep is concerned, I usually have to prep for superficial things like if I have an accent or something with body language that I have to do, maybe a limp or whatever have you. Those things take practice. But if I just have to perform, be a person, an individual, then all I need is the story. And I learn my dialogues literally on set because when I block a scene, it sits down. My method is to put myself out there. When you're not so prepared, it gives you, you're in chaos and there's this fear of failure. And it's from that vulnerability that you come with a strength. And that's how I prep by not prepping.
Absolutely. And like you said, your films have never been the conventional route. When people were playing safe, you were doing a Devdi and a Oi Lucky Lucky Oi and a Shanghai.
Yeah.
What was it that made you take those decisions and stand by those films much before their time?
I was only doing what I felt I could do authentically and give myself to, with conviction. My money was never the motive. Yeah, sure, I want to make money, don't get me wrong, but it's not the driving factor. Creativity was the driving factor. And so I didn't do those films to be different or to prove a point. No, I did them because that's what came naturally through me. And I felt like if I am in a position of privilege, who else is going to do it if not someone in my position? Does that mean that I don't make sacrifices? Sure. Just because you have privilege doesn't mean you don't sacrifice. And I did sacrifice the star game for sure in as a result of it. But the advantage I got from my background wasn't the privilege of getting work because I'd created my own work. The advantage was knowing that fame and money don't necessarily bring you happiness because I came from a family that had both. And I saw that the that was not the route to happiness. Happiness is in being free. And you know what? Fame and money usually takes away that very thing, which is freedom. So I had to grapple with being famous.
And being a producer too. So, any plans for direction and what has
Yeah,
production
now more
taught
than
you?
ever. I started with acting. The first script I got developed was Devdi, got into development, got funds for some films, and now it's gone into production, and produced 2 films. And I think now I might be ready for directing, but let's see, all in good time.
And of course, you've always been honest about, your thoughts, even if it means like not supporting the message. Some of your films may have even like Aranjana, for example. So, do you feel that honesty can sometimes, like people may take it in the wrong way?
Oh, for sure. Honesty is not necessarily the best policy. And I've always tried to be who I am. What you see is what you get. And when you wear your heart on your sleeve, you can also be reactionary. And I've been taken advantage of, manipulated, gaslit by directors I've worked with, people I've worked with. There's a narrative that comes about you which is false. Have I made mistakes? Sure. Not just in trusting people I should not have trusted, but also in being honest. I used to think that, if I was not, then I would if I played the game, then I would end up being just like everybody else. And I realized that's not necessarily true. You can play the game to protect yourself. Does not mean you are being one of them. I'm still being honest. I'm telling you this. Doesn't mean my honesty is gone, but I will hold back from telling you what I feel about you now. And that's not a judgment on me. That doesn't mean I'm being dishonest. It's because I don't want to be gaslit by you and I don't want to be manipulated by you.
Lastly, any advice you would give your younger self? Maybe anything you would maybe do differently if you
Just
had to?
this, just there are directors you work with who don't have your best interest at heart and they're just using you to get ahead in life. That's the one thing I definitely want to tell my younger self. But then I had to experience those people, or else I would have been this naive, idealistic kid, reactionary too, and gone about oblivious to the fact that there are people out there who harbor ill will because they've had their own traumas, whatever, and they don't mean you good. And they're selling you one thing, this package that they are, when actually it's just to use you and get ahead and get something from you, well, at your expense.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.